Piracy off the coast of Somalia has been a threat to international shipping since the second phase of the Somali civil war in the early 21st century. Since 2005, many international organizations, including the International Maritime Organization and the World Food Programme, have expressed concern over the rise in acts of piracy. Piracy has impeded the delivery of shipments and increased shipping expenses, costing an estimated $6.6 to $6.9 billion a year in global trade per Oceans Beyond Piracy, OBP. According to the German Institute for Economic Research, DIW, a veritable industry of profiteers has also risen around the piracy. Insurance companies, in particular, have profited from the pirate attacks, as insurance premiums have increased significantly. A United Nations report and several news sources have suggested that piracy off the coast of Somalia is caused in part by illegal fishing. According to the DIW and the U.S. House Armed Services Committee, the dumping of toxic waste in Somali waters by foreign vessels has also severely constrained the ability of local fishermen to earn a living and forced many to turn to piracy instead. 70% of the local coastal communities strongly support the piracy as a form of national defense of the country's territorial waters, and the pirates believe they are protecting their fishing grounds and exacting justice and compensation for the marine resources stolen. Some reports have suggested that, in the absence of an effective national coast guard following the outbreak of the Civil War and the subsequent disintegration of the armed forces, local fishermen formed organized groups in order to protect their waters. This motivation is reflected in the names taken on by some of the pirate networks, such as the National Volunteer Coast Guard. However, as piracy has become substantially more lucrative in recent years, other reports have speculated that financial gain is now the primary motive for the pirates. Combined Task Force 150, a multinational coalition task force, took on the role of fighting piracy off of the coast of Somalia by establishing a Maritime Security Patrol Area (MSPA) within the Gulf of Aden. The increasing threat posed by piracy has also caused concern in India since most of its shipping trade routes pass through the Gulf of Aden. The Indian Navy responded to these concerns by deploying a warship in the region on the 23rd of October 2008. In September 2008, Russia announced that it too would join international efforts to combat piracy. Some reports have also accused certain government officials in Somalia of complicity with the pirates, with authorities from the Galmudug administration in the north-central Hobyo district reportedly attempting to use pirate gangs as a bulwark against Islamist insurgents from the nation's southern conflict zones. However, according to UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, both the former and current administrations of the autonomous Puntland region in northeastern Somalia appear to be more actively involved in combating piracy. The latter measures include on-land raids on pirate hideouts, and the construction of a new naval base in conjunction with Saracen International, a UK-based security company. By the first half of 2010, these increased policing efforts by Somali government authorities on land and international naval vessels at sea reportedly contributed to a drop in pirate attacks in the Gulf of Aden from 86 a year prior to 33, forcing pirates to shift attention to other areas such as the Somali Basin and the wider Indian Ocean. By the end of 2011, pirates managed to seize only 4 ships off of the coast of Somalia, 18 fewer than the 26 they had captured in each of the 2 previous years. They also attempted unsuccessful attacks on 52 other vessels, 16 fewer than the year prior. As of the 23rd of October 2012, the pirates were holding approximately 5 large ships with an estimated 143 hostages. According to another source, There were 151 attacks on ships in 2011, compared to 127 in 2010, but only 25 successful hijacks compared to 47 in 2010. 10 vessels and 159 hostages were being held at February 2012. In 2011, pirates earned $146 million, an average of $4.87 million per ship. An estimated 3,000 to 5,000 pirates operated. By February 2012, 1,000 had been captured and were going through legal processes in 21 countries. According to the European Union Naval Force, EU NAVFOR, intensified naval operations had by February 2012 led to a further drop in successful pirate attacks in the Indian Ocean, with the pirates' movements in the region at large also significantly constrained. 25 military vessels from the EU and NATO countries, the USA, China, Russia, India and Japan patrolled approximately 8.3 km2, 3.2 meter square miles of ocean, an area about the size of Western Europe. On the 16th of July 2012, the European Union launched a new operation, EUCAP Nestor. An analysis by the Brussels-based Global Governance Institute urged the EU to commit onshore to prevent piracy. By September 2012, the heyday of piracy in the Indian Ocean was reportedly over. Backers were now reportedly reluctant to finance pirate expeditions due to the low rate of success, and pirates were no longer able to reimburse their creditors. According to the International Maritime Bureau, pirate attacks had by October 2012 dropped to a 6-year low, with only 1 ship attacked in the third quarter compared to 36 during the same period in 2011. History. In the early 1980s, prior to the outbreak of the civil war in Somalia, the Somali Ministry of Fisheries and the Coastal Development Agency, CDA, launched the development program focusing on the establishment of agricultural and fishery cooperatives for artisanal fishermen. It also received significant foreign investment funds for various fishery development projects, as the Somali fishing industry was considered to have a lot of potential owing to its unexploited marine stocks. The government at this time permitted foreign fishing through official licensing or joint venture agreements, forming 2 such partnerships in the Iraqi-Somali Shiko and Italian-Somali Summital Ventures. Somalia's coral reefs, ecological parks and protected areas. After the collapse of the central government in the ensuing civil war, the Somali Navy disbanded. With Somali territorial waters undefended, foreign fishing trawlers began illegally fishing on the Somali seaboard and ships from big companies started dumping waste off the coast of Somalia. This led to the erosion of the fish stock. Local fishermen subsequently started to band together to protect their resources. After seeing the profitability of ransom payments, some financiers and former militiamen later began to fund pirate activities, splitting the profits evenly with the pirates. In most of the hijackings, the pirates have not harmed their prisoners. Combined Task Force 150, a multinational coalition task force, subsequently took on the role of fighting piracy off the coast of Somalia by establishing a Maritime Security Patrol Area (MSPA) within the Gulf of Aden. However, many foreign naval vessels chasing pirates were forced to break off when the pirates entered Somali territorial waters. To address this, in June 2008, following a letter from the Somalian Transitional Federal Government, TFG, to the President of the UN Security Council requesting assistance for the TFG's efforts to tackle acts of piracy off the coast of Somalia, the UN Security Council unanimously passed a declaration authorizing nations that have the consent of the Transitional Federal Government to enter Somali territorial waters to deal with pirates. On the advice of lawyers, The Royal Navy and other international naval forces have often released suspected pirates that they have captured because, although the men are frequently armed, they have not been caught engaging in acts of piracy and have thus not technically committed the crime. Due to improved anti-piracy measures, the success of piracy acts on sea decreased dramatically by the end of 2011, with only 4 vessels hijacked in the last quarter versus 17 in the last quarter of the preceding year. In response, pirates resorted to increased hostage-taking on land. The government of the autonomous Puntland region has also made progress in combating piracy, evident in recent interventions by its maritime police force. Summary of recent events. Main article: List of ships attacked by Somali pirates. Somali pirates have attacked hundreds of vessels in the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean region, though most attacks do not result in a successful hijacking. In 2008, there were 111 attacks, which included 42 successful hijackings. However, this is only a fraction of the up to 30,000 merchant vessels which pass through that area. The rate of attacks in January and February 2009 was about 10 times higher than during the same period in 2008, and there have been almost daily attacks in March, with 79 attacks, 21 successful, by mid-April. Most of these attacks occur in the Gulf of Aden, but the Somali pirates have been increasing their range and have started attacking ships as far south as off the coast of Kenya in the Indian Ocean. Below are some notable pirate events which have garnered significant media coverage since 2007. On the 28th of May 2007, a Chinese sailor was killed by the pirates because the ship's owners failed to meet their ransom demand. The sinking of Ekawat Nava 5 on November 18, 2008 by the Indian Navy warship INS Tabor. On the 5th of October 2008, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 1838 calling on nations with vessels in the area to apply military force to repress the acts of piracy. At the 101st Council of the International Maritime Organization, India called for a United Nations peacekeeping force under unified command to tackle piracy off Somalia. There has been a general and complete arms embargo against Somalia since 1992. In November 2008, Somali pirates began hijacking ships well outside the Gulf of Aden, perhaps targeting ships headed for the port of Mombasa, Kenya. The frequency and sophistication of the attacks also increased around this time, as did the size of vessels being targeted. Large cargo ships, oil and chemical tankers on international voyages became the new targets of choice for the Somali hijackers. This is in stark contrast to the pirate attacks which were once frequent in the Strait of Malacca, another strategically important waterway for international trade, which were, according to maritime security expert Catherine Zahra Raymond, generally directed against smaller, more vulnerable vessels carrying trade across the straits or employed in the coastal trade on either side of the straits. On the 19th of November 2008, the Indian Navy warship INS Tabor sank a suspected pirate mothership. Later, it was claimed to be a Thai trawler being hijacked by pirates. The Indian Navy later defended its actions by stating that they were fired upon first. On the 21st of November 2008, BBC News reported that the Indian Navy had received United Nations approval to enter Somali waters to combat piracy. On the 8th of April 2009, 4 Somali pirates seized the Maersk Alabama 240 nautical miles, 440 kilometers, 280 miles southeast of the Somalia port city of Eyl. The ship was carrying 17,000 metric tons of cargo, of which 5,000 metric tons were relief supplies bound for Somalia, Uganda, and Kenya. On the 12th of April 2009, United States Navy SEAL snipers killed the 3 pirates that were holding Captain Richard Phillips hostage aboard a lifeboat from the Maersk, Alabama, after determining that Captain Phillips' life was in immediate danger. A 4th pirate, Abdul Wali Muse, surrendered and was taken into custody. On May 18, a federal grand jury in New York returned a 10-count indictment against him. On the 20th of April 2009, United States Secretary of State Hillary Clinton commented on the capture and release of 7 Somali pirates by Dutch naval forces who were on a NATO mission. After an attack on the handy tanker's Magic, a petroleum tanker, the Dutch frigate De Zeven Provincen tracked the pirates back to a pirate mothership and captured them. They confiscated the pirates' weapons and freed 20 Yemeni fishermen whom the pirates had kidnapped and who had been forced to sail the pirate mothership. 66. Since the Dutch naval forces were part of a NATO exercise, but not on an EU mission, they lacked legal jurisdiction to keep the pirates, so they released them. Clinton stated that this action sends the wrong signal and that additional coordination was needed among nations. On the 23rd of April 2009, international donors pledged over $250 million for Somalia, including $134 million to increase the African Union peacekeeping mission from 4,350 troops to 8,000 troops and $34 million for Somali security forces. Secretary-General of the United Nations Ban Ki-moon told delegates at a donors' conference sponsored by the UN that piracy is a symptom of anarchy and insecurity on the ground, and that more security on the ground will make less piracy on the seas. 68. Somali President Sharif Ahmed pledged at the conference that he would fight piracy, and to loud applause said that it is our duty to pursue these criminals not only on the high seas, but also on terra firma. The Somali government has not gone after pirates because pirate leaders currently have more power than the government. It has been estimated by piracy experts that in 2008 the pirates gained about $80 million through ransom payments. On the 2nd of May 2009, Somali pirates captured the MV Ariana with its 24 Ukrainian crew. The ship was released on the 10th of December 2009 after a ransom of almost $3 million was paid. Armed pirates in the Indian Ocean near Somalia. After the picture was taken, the vessel's crew members opened fire on U.S. Navy ships and the ship's crew members returned fire. 1 suspected pirate was killed and 12 were taken into custody. Engaged pirate vessels. On the 8th of November 2009, Somali pirates threatened that a kidnapped British couple, the Chandlers, would be punished if a German warship did not release 7 pirates. Omar, one of the pirates holding the British couple, claimed the 7 men were fishermen, but a European Union Naval Force spokesman stated they were captured as they fired AK-47 assault rifles at a French fishing vessel. The Chandlers were released on the 14th of November 2010 after 388 days of captivity. At least 2 ransom payments, reportedly over GBP 500,000, had been made. In April 2010, the Central Intelligence Agency (CIA) alluded to possible covert and overt action against the pirates. CIA officials had been publicly warning of this potential threat for months. In a Harper's Magazine article, a CIA official said, "We need to deal with this problem from the beach side, in concert with the ocean side, but we don't have an embassy in Somalia and limited, ineffective intelligence operations. We need to work in Somalia and in Lebanon, where a lot of the ransom money has changed hands. But our operations in Lebanon are a joke, and we have no presence at all in Somalia." In early May 2010, Russian special forces retook a Russian oil tanker that had been hijacked by 11 pirates. 1 died in the assault. and a week later Russian military officials reported that the remainder were free due to weaknesses in international law but died before reaching the Somali coast. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev had announced the day the ship was retaken that, "We will have to do what our forefathers did when they met the pirates until a suitable way of prosecuting them was available." On the 11th of May 2010, Somali pirates seized a Bulgarian flagship in the Gulf of Aden. The Panga, with 15 Bulgarian crew members aboard, was en route from the Red Sea to India or Pakistan. This was the first such hijacking of a Bulgarian flagship. On the 12th of May 2010, Athens announced that Somali pirates have seized a Greek vessel in the Gulf of Aden with at least 24 people on board, including 2 Greek citizens and some Filipinos. The vessel, sailing under the Liberian flag, was transporting iron from Ukraine to China. On the 14th of January 2011, while speaking to reporters, Commodore Michiel Hijmans of the Royal Netherlands Navy stated that the use of hijacked vessels in more recent hijackings had led to increased range of pirating activities, as well as difficulty to actively thwart future events due to the use of kidnapped sailors as human shields. On the 15th of January 2011, 13 Somali pirates seized the Samo Jewelry, a Maltese-flagged chemical carrier operated by Samo Shipping, 650 kilometers southeast of Muscat. The Republic of Korea Navy destroyer Choyung shadowed the Samo Jewelry for several days. In the early morning of the 21st of January 2011, 25 ROK Navy SEALs on small boats launched from the Choyung boarded the Samo Jewelry while the Choyung's Westland Superlynx provided covering fire. 8 pirates were killed and 5 captured in the operation. The crew of 21 was freed with the captain suffering a gunshot wound to the stomach. On the 28th of January 2011, an Indian Coast Guard aircraft, while responding to a distress call from the CMA-CGM Verity, located 2 skiffs attempting a piracy attack near Lakshadweep. Seeing the aircraft, the skiffs immediately aborted their piracy attempt and dashed towards the mother vessel, MV Prantal IA-14, a hijacked Thai trawler, which hurriedly hoisted the 2 skiffs on board and moved westward. The Indian Navy deployed the INS Kankarso, which located and engaged the mothership 100 nautical miles north of the Minicoy Island. 10 pirates were killed while 15 were apprehended and 20 Thai and Burmese fishermen being held aboard the ship as hostages were rescued. Within a week of its previous success, the Indian Navy captured another hijacked Thai trawler, MV Prantal IA-11, and captured 28 pirates aboard in an operation undertaken by the INS Terpuriuzu into receiving information that a Greek merchant ship had been attacked by pirates on board high-speed boats, although it had managed to avoid capture. When INS ordered the pirate ship to stop and be boarded for inspection, it was fired upon. The INS returned fire in which 3 pirates were injured and caused the pirates to raise a white flag indicating their surrender. The INS subsequently joined by CGS Samer of the Indian Coast Guard. Officials from the Indian Navy reported that a total of 52 men were apprehended, but that 24 are suspected to be Thai fishermen who were hostages of the 28 African pirates. In late February 2011, piracy targeting smaller yachts and collecting ransom made headlines when 4 Americans were killed aboard their vessel, the Quest, by their captors, while a military ship shadowed them. A federal court in Norfolk, Virginia, sentenced 3 members of the gang that seized the yacht to life imprisonment. On the 24th of February 2011, a Danish family on a yacht were captured by pirates. In March 2011, the Indian Navy intercepted a pirate mother vessel 600 nautical miles west of the Indian coast in the Arabian Sea on Monday and rescued 13 hostages. 61 pirates have also been caught in the operation carried out by Navy's INS Kalpeni. In late March 2011, Indian Navy seized 16 suspected pirates after a 3-hour-long battle in the Arabian Sea. The Navy also rescued 16 crew members of a hijacked Iranian ship west of the Lakshadweep Islands. The crew included 12 Iranians and 4 Pakistanis. On January 5, 2012, an SH-60 Seahawk from the guided missile destroyer USS Kidd, part of the USS John C. Stennis Carrier Strike Group, detected a suspected pirate skiff alongside the Iranian flag fishing boat, Al-Molai. The master of the Al-Molai sent a distress call about the same time reporting pirates were holding him captive. A visit board, search and seizure team from the Kidd boarded the Dhow, a traditional Arabian sailing vessel, and detained 15 suspected pirates who had been holding the 13-member Iranian crew hostage for several weeks. The Al-Molai had been pirated and used as a mothership for pirate operations throughout the Persian Gulf, members of the Iranian vessel's crew reported. Weaponry and funding. The pirates get most of their weapons from Yemen, but a significant amount comes from Mogadishu, Somalia's capital. Weapons dealers in the capital receive a deposit from a halal dealer on behalf of the pirates, and the weapons are then driven to Puntland where the pirates pay the balance. Various photographs of pirates in situ indicate that their weapons are predominantly AKMs, RPG-7s, AK-47s, and semi-automatic pistols such as the TT-30. Additionally, given the particular origin of their weaponry, they are likely to have hand grenades such as the RGD-5 or F1. The funding of piracy operations is now structured in a stock exchange, with investors buying and selling shares in upcoming attacks in a bourse in Harare. Pirates say ransom money is paid in large denomination US dollar bills. It is delivered to them in burlap sacks which are either dropped from helicopters or cased in waterproof suitcases loaded onto tiny skiffs. Ransom money has also been delivered to pirates via parachute, as happened in January 2009 when an orange container with $3 million cash inside was dropped onto the deck of the supertanker MV Sirius Star to secure the release of ship and crew. To authenticate the banknotes, pirates use currency counting machines, the same technology used at foreign exchange bureaus worldwide. According to one pirate, these machines are, in turn, purchased from business connections in Dubai, Djibouti, and other areas. Hostages seized by the pirates usually have to wait 45 days or more for the ship's owners to pay the ransom and secure their release. In 2008, there were also allegations that the pirates received assistance from some members of the Somali diaspora. Somali expatriates, including some members of the Somali community in Canada, reputedly offered funds, equipment and information. According to the head of the UN's Counter-Piracy Division, Colonel John Steed, the Al-Shabaab group in 2011 increasingly sought to cooperate with the pirate gangs in the face of dwindling funds and resources for their own activities. Steed, however, acknowledged that he had no definite proof of operational ties between the pirates and the Islamist militants. Detained pirates also indicated to UNODC officials that some measure of cooperation with al-Shabaab militants was necessary, as they have increasingly launched maritime raids from areas in southern Somalia controlled by the insurgent outfit. Al-Shabaab members have also extorted the pirates, demanding protection money from them and forcing seized pirate gang leaders in Harare to hand over 20% of future ransom proceeds. There have also been ties with Al-Qaeda receiving funding from pirate operations. A maritime intelligence source told CBS News that it was inconceivable to Western intelligence agencies that Al-Qaeda would not be getting some financial reward from the successful hijackings. They go on to express concern about this funding link being able to keep the group satisfied as piracy gains more publicity and higher ransoms. Costs. Both positive and negative effects of piracy have been reported. In 2009, pirate income derived from ransoms was estimated at around €39 million, about $58 million, rising to $238 million in 2010. The average ransom had risen to $5.4 million in 2010, up from around $150,000 in 2005. However, by 2011, pirate ransom income dropped to $160 million, a downward trend which has been attributed to intensified counter-piracy efforts. Besides the actual cost of paying ransoms, various attempts have been made at gauging indirect costs stemming from the piracy, especially those reportedly incurred over the course of anti-piracy initiatives. During the height of the piracy phenomenon in 2008, local residents complained that the presence of so many armed men made them feel insecure and that their free spending ways caused wild fluctuations in the local exchange rate. Others faulted them for excessive consumption of alcoholic beverages and cat. A 2010 report suggested that piracy off the coast of Somalia led to a decrease of revenue for Egypt as fewer ships use the Suez Canal, estimated loss of about $642 million, impeded trade with neighboring countries, and negatively impacted tourism and fishing in the Seychelles. According to Sky News, around 50% of the world's containers passed through the Horn of Africa coastline as of 2012. The European Union Naval Force, EU NAVFOR, has a yearly budget of over €8 million earmarked for patrolling the 3.2 million square miles. A 2011 report by Oceans Beyond Piracy, OBP, suggested that the indirect costs of piracy were much higher and estimated to be between $6.6 to $6.9 billion, as they also included insurance, naval support, legal proceedings, rerouting of slower ships, and individual protective steps taken by shipowners. Another report from 2011 published by the consultancy firm Geopolity Incorporated investigated the causes and consequences of international piracy, with a particular focus on such activity off the coast of Somalia. The paper asserted that what began as an attempt in the mid-1990s by Somali fishermen to protect their territorial waters has extended far beyond their seaboard and grown into an emerging market in its own right. Due to potentially substantial financial rewards, the report hypothesized that the number of new pirates could swell by 400 persons annually, that pirate ransom income could in turn rise to $400 million per year by 2015, and that piracy costs as a whole could increase to $15 billion over the same period. According to a 2012 investigative piece by the Somalia Report, the OBP paper and other similar reports that attempt to calibrate the global cost of piracy produce inaccurate estimates based on a variety of factors. Most saliently, instead of comparing the actual cost of piracy with the considerable benefits derived from the phenomenon by the maritime industry and local parties capitalizing on capacity-building initiatives, the OBP paper conflated the alleged piracy costs with the large premiums made by insurance companies and lumped them together with governmental and societal costs. The report also exaggerated the impact that piracy has had on the shipping sector, an industry which has grown steadily in size from 25,000 billion tons-miles to 35,000 billion tons-miles since the rise of Indian Ocean piracy in 2005. Moreover, the global costs of piracy reportedly represent a small fraction of total maritime shipping expenses and are significantly lower than more routine costs, such as those brought on by port theft, bad weather conditions or fuel-related issues. In the United States alone, the National Cargo Security Council estimated that between $15 billion were stolen from ports in 2003, a figure several times higher than the projected global cost of piracy. Additionally, while the OBP paper alleged that pirate activity has had a significantly negative impact on regional economies, particularly the Kenyan tourism industry. Tourist-derived revenue in Kenya rose by 32% in 2011. According to the Somalia report investigation, the OBP paper also did not factor into its calculations the overall decline in successful pirate attacks beginning in the second half of 2011, a downward trend largely brought about by the increasing use of armed guards. Self-Defense, the third volume of the handbook, Best Management Practices to Deter Piracy off the Coast of Somalia and in the Arabian Sea Area, known as BMP3, is the current authoritative guide for merchant ships on self-defense against pirates. The guide is issued and updated by a consortium of interested international shipping and trading organizations including the EU, NATO and the International Maritime Bureau. It is distributed primarily by the Maritime Security Center, Horn of Africa, MSCHOE, the Planning and Coordination Authority for EU Naval Forces, EUNAVFOR. BMP3 encourages vessels to register their voyages through the region with MSCHOE, as this registration is a key component of the operation of the International Recommended Transit Corridor, IRTC, the Navy-patrolled route through the Gulf of Aden. BMP3 also contains a chapter entitled Self-Protective Measures, which lays out a list of steps a merchant vessel can take on its own to make itself less of a target to pirates and make it better able to repel an attack if one occurs. This list includes doing things like ringing the deck of the ship with razor wire, rigging fire hoses to spray seawater over the side of the ship to hinder boardings, having a distinctive pirate alarm, hardening the bridge against gunfire and creating a citadel where the crew can retreat in the event pirates get on board. Other unofficial self-defense measures that can be found on merchant vessels include the setting up of mannequins posing as armed guards or firing flares at the pirates. Though it varies by country, generally peacetime law in the 20th and 21st centuries has not allowed merchant vessels to carry weapons. As a response to the rise in modern piracy, however, the U.S. government changed its rules so that it is now possible for U.S.-flagged vessels to embark a team of armed private security guards. Other countries and organizations have similarly followed suit. This has given birth to a new breed of private security companies who provide training and protection for crew members and cargo and have proved effective in countering pirate attacks. The USCG leaves it to ship owners' discretion to determine if those guards will be armed. Seychelles has become a central location for international anti-piracy operations, hosting the Anti-Piracy Operations Center for the Indian Ocean. In 2008, VSOS became the first authorized armed maritime security company to operate in the Indian Ocean region. With safety trials complete in the late 2000s, laser dazzlers have been developed for defensive purposes on superyachts. They can be effective up to 2.5 miles with the effects going from mild disorientation to flash blindness at closer range. In February 2012, Italian Marines based on the tanker Enrico Rixi allegedly fired on an Indian fishing trawler off Kerala, killing 2 of her 11 crew. The Marines allegedly mistook the fishing vessel as a pirate vessel. The incident sparked a diplomatic row between India and Italy. Enrico Rixi was ordered into Kochi, where her crew were questioned by officers of the Indian Police military presence. Ships of the Multinational Fleet Combined Task Force 150, March 2004. From the left, DMF 213 Augsburg, JMS DFDD 106 Samidare, RNZNF 111 Taymana, JMS DFDDG 175 Myoko, MMIF 573 Sirocco, Spanish Navy Victoria, F-82, U.S. Navy USS Leyte Gulf, JMSDF AOE 422 Tawada, USS Cushing. The military response to pirate attacks has brought about a rare show of unity by countries that are either openly hostile to each other, or at least wary of cooperation, military or otherwise. Currently there are 3 international naval task forces in the region, with numerous national vessels and task forces entering and leaving the region, engaging in counter-piracy operations for various lengths of time. The 3 international task forces which comprise the bulk of counter-piracy operations are Combined Task Force 150, whose overarching mission is Operation Enduring Freedom, Combined Task Force 151, which was set up in 2009 specifically to run counter-piracy operations, and the EU Naval Task Force operating under Operation Atalanta. All counter-piracy operations are coordinated through a monthly planning conference called Shared Awareness and Deconfliction (SHADE), originally having representatives only from NATO, the EU, and the Combined Maritime Forces, CMF HQ in Bahrain. It now regularly attracts representatives from over 20 countries. Part of Operation Atalanta, the Mistral-class frigate ITS Mistral, F-570, prepares to take on fuel alongside the amphibious assault ship USS Tarawa, LHA-1, during an underway replenishment in the Indian Ocean. As part of the international effort, Europe plays a significant role in combating piracy off of the coast of the Horn of Africa. The European Union under the Common Security and Defence Policy (CSDP) launched EU NAVFOR Somalia, Operation Atalanta, in support of Resolutions 1814, 2008, 1816, 2008, 1838, 2008, and 1846, 2008 of the United Nations Security Council (UNSC). This operation is working to protect humanitarian aid and reduce the disruption to the shipping routes and the destabilizing of the maritime environment in the region. To date, 26 countries have brought some kind of contribution to the operation. 13 EU member states have provided an operational contribution to EU NAVFOR, either with ships, with maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft, or with Vessel Protection Detachment (VPD) team. This includes France, Spain, Germany, Greece, Sweden, Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, United Kingdom, also hosting the EU NAVFOR operational headquarters, Portugal, Luxembourg, Malta and Estonia. 9 other EU member states have participated in the effort, providing military staff to work at the EU NAVFOR operational headquarters, Northwood headquarters, UK, or onboard units. These are Cyprus, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Ireland and Finland. Finally, 4 non-EU member states, Norway, who has also provided an operational contribution with the warship regularly deploying, Croatia, Ukraine and Montenegro, have so far also brought their contribution to EU NAVFOR. At any one time, the European force size fluctuates according to the monsoon seasons, which determine the level of piracy. It typically consists of 5 to 10 surface combatants, naval ships, 1 to 2 auxiliary ships and 2 to 4 maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft. Including land-based personnel, Operation Atalanta consists of a total of around 2,000 military personnel. EU NAVFOR operates in a zone comprising the south of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden and the western part of the Indian Ocean including the Seychelles, which represents an area of 2 million square nautical miles. Additionally, there are, and have been, several naval deployments by non-multinational task forces in the past. Some notable ones include, on the 29th of May 2009, Australia pledged its support, redirecting Australian warship, HMAS Warramunga from duties in the Persian Gulf to assist in the fighting of piracy. On the 26th of December 2008, China dispatched two destroyers Haikou, 171, Wuhan, 169, and the supply ship Waishanhu, 887, to the Gulf of Aden. A team of 16 Chinese Special Forces members from its Marine Corps armed with attack helicopters were on board. Subsequent to their initial deployment, China has maintained a three-ship flotilla of 2 warships and 1 supply ship in the Gulf of Aden by assigning ships to the area on a 3-month basis. Members of the U.S. Coast Guard Tactical Law Enforcement and the Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure Team embarked aboard USS Princeton, CG-59, engaging a mock assault operation in the Red Sea. The U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Navy both support the actions of the Combined Task Force 151 in their anti-piracy missions in the area. To protect Indian ships and Indian citizens employed in seafaring duties, Indian Navy commenced anti-piracy patrols in the Gulf of Aden from the 23rd of October 8. A total of 21 IN ships have been deployed in the Gulf of Aden since October 8. In addition to escorting Indian-flagged ships, ships of other countries have also been escorted. Merchant ships are currently being escorted along the entire length of the 490 nanometer long and 20 nanometer wide Internationally Recommended Transit Corridor (IRTC) that has been promulgated for use by all merchant vessels. A total of 1181 ships, 144 Indian-flagged and 1,037 foreign-flagged from different countries have been escorted by IN ships in the Gulf of Aden since October 8. During its deployments for anti-piracy operations, the Indian naval ships have prevented 15 piracy attempts on merchant vessels. In response to the increased activity of the INS Tabor, India sought to augment its naval force in the Gulf of Aden by deploying the larger INS Mysore to patrol the area. Somalia also added India to its list of states, including the US and France, who are permitted to enter its territorial waters, extending up to 12 nautical miles, 22 kilometers. 14 miles from the coastline, in an effort to check piracy. An Indian naval official confirmed receipt of a letter acceding to India's prerogative to check such piracy. We had put up a request before the Somali government to play a greater role in suppressing piracy in the Gulf of Aden in view of the United Nations resolution. The TFG government gave its nod recently. India also expressed consideration to deploy up to 4 more warships in the region. On the 14th of March 2011, the Indian Navy reportedly had seized 61 pirates and rescued 13 crew from the vessel, which had been used as a mothership from where pirates launched attacks around the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, a Bangladeshi ship hijacked by pirates last year was freed after ransom was paid. Norway announced on the 27th of February 2009 that it would send the frigate HMS Fridtjof Nansen to the coast of Somalia to fight piracy. Royal Norwegian Navy Fridtjof Nansen joined EU NAVFOR's International Naval Force in August. Russia also chose to send more warships to combat piracy near Somalia following the announcement from the International Maritime Bureau terming the menace as having gone out of control. Anti-piracy boarding, December 2011. Due to their proximity to Somalia, the Coast Guard of Seychelles has become increasingly involved in counter-piracy in the region. On the 30th of March 2010, a Seychelles Coast Guard Trincat-class patrol vessel rescued 27 hostages and sank 2 pirate vessels. Other non-NATO and non-EU countries have, at one time or another, contributed to counter-piracy operations. Pakistan, South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia and Iran have all sent ships to the region, sometimes joining with the existing CTFs, sometimes operating independently. Royal Australian Air Force Lockheed P-3 Orion surveillance plane patrol the ocean between the southern coast of Oman and the Horn of Africa. The anti-piracy flights are operated from UAE. The Spanish Air Force also deployed P-3s to assist the international effort against piracy in Somalia. On the 29th of October 2008, a Spanish P-3 aircraft patrolling the coast of Somalia reacted to a distress call from an oil tanker in the Gulf of Aden. In order to deter the pirates, the aircraft flew over the pirates 3 times as they attempted to board a tanker, dropping a smoke bomb on each pass. After the 3rd pass, the attacking pirate boats broke off their attack. Later, on the 29th of March 2009, the same P-3 pursued the assailants of the German Navy tanker Spessart, A1442, resulting in the capture of the pirates. In April 2011, the Portuguese Air Force also contributed to Operation Ocean Shield by sending a P-3C which had early success when on its 5th mission detected a pirate whaler with 2 attack skiffs. A maritime conference was also held in Mombasa to discuss the rising concern of regional piracy with a view to give regional and world governments recommendations to deal with the menace. The International Transport Workers Federation, ITWF, organized the Regional African Maritime Unions Conference, the first of its kind in Africa. Godfrey Matata Onyango, Executive Secretary of the Northern Corridor Transit Coordination Authority, said that, "We cannot ignore to discuss the piracy menace because it poses a huge challenge to the maritime industry, and if not controlled, it threats to chop off the regional internal trade. The cost of shipping will definitely rise as a result of the increased war insurance premium due to the high risk off the Gulf of Aden." In 2008, Pakistan offered the services of the Pakistan Navy to the United Nations in order to help combat the piracy in Somalia, provided a clear mandate was given.